Hi, I'm Mark Becker, National Sales Director at Summit International Flooring. Welcome back to a new episode of Summit Live. You know, when we started this venture, we really started with product demonstrations and quickly moved to bringing in guests that could share insight, let us all learn from each other, and just keep us connected as a community. Today, we have a unique show in that we think some of you out there may one day want to own your own companies. The uniqueness of today's show is that we are going to interview an entrepreneur, the head of our company, our president, Mr. David Numark. Dave, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mark.
Weird, right?
It's weird because this is my show, but I'm a guest on my show today.
Well, we're glad to have it, and I really do think that it's going to be interesting because there are a lot of young designers out there that may want to own their own firm one day, and it's a big question. How do you move from here to there? So why don't we start out with letting folks learn about your background and how you even got into the industry in the first place.
Okay, well, first of all, I'd like to tell everybody that's watching that we have not rehearsed this. We don't know what questions are coming. I have no idea what's coming out of your mouth, but I'll answer. My father was always in the carpet business, and when I went to school at the University of Delaware, and I was kind of like jumping around a little bit, I ended up with a major in sociology, and I didn't declare that until I was a second semester junior. So I had to load up on sociology courses just to finish and graduate with a degree. And again, what do you do with a sociology major when you were just an average student in college? Well, not much. The answer for me was not much. So what happened is my father, he introduced me to one of his friends, and I ended up going to work for a company called Empire Carpet Corporation, which you never heard of, I don't think. Empire was a wholly owned distributor of Armstrong. And I started off in New Jersey, driving around, calling on retailers.
Yeah, this is not the Empire that you see on TV commercials today.
No, that's a completely different Empire. It was just called Empire Carpet. It was a division of Armstrong. And my job, literally, is they paid me basically nothing, and I drove to Long Island every day with a bag full of samples, and I just tried to get them to buy anything Armstrong.
And I thought the answer of how do you get into the industry was somebody didn't like me.
Well, once you're in this industry, as you know, it's hard to get out.
Now see, this is interesting because I'm learning things today that I maybe forgot or maybe didn't know. But I thought that your first position in the industry was for a yarn manufacturer, a BASF.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. In fact, I didn't get. I had a couple of steps. You know, I think if I really were to count these, I think this is my 6th or 7th position owning Summit International Flooring. I've had a series of steps along the way. When I worked for BASF, in fact, right before I worked for BASF, I'm not going to name the company, but I was fired. The one and only time in my life I was fired 3 weeks before my wedding. And I didn't deserve it, just so you know. There was just a jealous guy that worked there, and he put a little pressure on the owner. And next thing you know is I'm unemployed 3 weeks before I got married.
For those of you that don't know, Dave always says I would have fired him 20 times if I had my way.
And you would have, for sure, for sure. But anyway, when I came back from my honeymoon and I had an interview, I was hired for, it was called Badische Corporation, which is the B of BASF. BASF, as you know, is a very large chemical company based in Germany. And I worked for their United States Fibers division.
So were you always on the carpet side of the business when you started?
It's all I've ever been in, is the carpet and fiber side.
Okay, so moving into today's topic and what people want to learn, at what point do you decide, I'm going to do more, I can do something bigger, I'd like to do my own thing? How does that come about? You're a young man at this point, you don't have deep pockets. How do you decide and start a company?
Well, the first thing you do is you get upset enough of where you were, and there were reasons that I wanted to make a change, and I got tired of working for a person or a company, and I felt I could do it on my own. And at the time we had a 3-year-old and a baby, and my wife was, I asked Gail, my wife, if she would, what about opening up her own business? What do you think about that? And she was very supportive. And this is when we didn't have any money. So what we did is we had a small home at the time. We took out a home equity line and we opened up our own company with a loan. And I timed it because, quite honestly, I spoke with one of my customers that I had a very good relationship with, and I said, well, this project that's coming up, if I were to open up my own company, would you be able to work with me, or you wouldn't be able to because I'm a new company? And his name was Steve, and Steve said to me, David, I buy my carpet from you.
So you mitigated the risk, but you still took a risk.
I took a risk because I put my house up the market. Yeah, but I had one project ready to go, and that's what launched my company.
And that was
now. Why did I go into it? Yes, that was Concord Flooring Systems, which was my prior company to open up Summit. That was number 6 out of 7, I guess. But basically, I was a good producer back then. I worked hard, I networked, I went to all these different industry events, developed good relationships with people, developed friendships, which is really what this business is all about when it comes down to it.
Yeah, and starting your own business, now we've heard it has to do with risk and networking. There are 2 keys in the early beginning stages.
Yeah.
So you started your own business, and that was Concord Flooring Systems.
Concord was started in December of '93. Alan, who's working the board, has just pointed to something. We started in December of '93 with a small project, and 5 years later, we were ranked as one of the 500 fastest growing U.S. companies, non-internet companies in America,
Impressive.
which I'm very proud of. But a lot of that is because we started in December. So our annual sales were based on December sales only.
Well, it's still impressive. You built the company.
I don't think I told anybody that. Now the whole world knows that.
Well, you did build a company, and you built a very successful company.
Yeah.
Tell us about some of the challenges as Concord started to grow.
Well,
I mean, I'm imagining 2 things. I'm imagining you now have to fund projects, and you now need people.
the funding of the projects is something completely unrelated. You start by yourself and you learn the hard way. It's very painful to open up a company when you're 30, what was I? Let's see, I was 33. Let's see, my son, I was 33 years old when I opened up my first company. And my son Jeffrey, who I think you see now, he was about 18 months old in that picture. No, not even 18 months, probably about 7 or 8 months. And he was a baby, and when you first start, you're very super sensitive to everything, every decision you make. And it takes a little bit of nerve, quite honestly. I'm not patting myself on the back. It's a fact of life. When you open up your own business, it's all or nothing.
Well, you and I have talked about this before. I have a brother that owns his own company,
right?
And I've always said I didn't have the stomach for it. It really does take something.
It takes a lot out of you.
So there's a lot of stress in that, and obviously Concord grew, and you needed people. And from my human resource background, I know there's a tremendous amount of stress when you start dealing with personalities and people.
You know, in order to get a company to grow, you do need people. And when you're young and you're aggressive, sometimes you're making decisions that are completely wrong, and the reasons you make a decision to hire somebody are completely wrong. I hired people sometimes just to have people, to make the company look bigger and to be bigger. Even though I was earning less money, it was an image thing. So just like any other company that wants to grow and wants more buying power and more clout with the manufacturers at that time, you make decisions. And then, you know, of course I have, if I could go back in time, I would make different decisions that I did. But overall, through all these years, the decisions I've made were okay, I guess.
Well, I'd say they were better than okay. Concord grew into a very respectable company.
It did.
And by just horrible dumb luck and timing, I know that you got to a point where you had a very big company and there was a huge tragedy in the country.
Yeah, the tragedy was September 11th.
Yeah.
And that was really that was the beginning of the end, because at that time we had about 50 something employees. We had 3 offices, New York, New Jersey, and Long Island. We had a union labor contract. We had a lot of overhead, and we had absolutely no business. When September 11th occurred, the entire world came to an end, to stop, especially in Manhattan. There was nothing.
Right, and
So,
now you've got a lot of overhead.
yeah, we had a lot of overhead. There were a lot of things that went on. Some personnel issues occurred during that time as well. But one thing led to another, and it just, a year and a half later, the company was closed. And I'm glad, because at that time we were a big company doing in the 20s of million. I think our peak was 24 million, something like that. But maybe at that time we were doing 21, 22. A lot of money was on the street, and general contractors that work with floor covering dealers, they basically are abusive. They take your money, they put it in their bank, and so on and so on. And it's not the world you want to be in. And I was, in many ways, I'm very grateful to no longer be involved with that company, even though it was one of the better floor covering dealers.
I'm sure you didn't feel grateful at the time, and
That's an understatement.
You did learn. You learned more than just carpet. Now at this point you've been installing all kinds of flooring, resilient carpet, pretty much everything there is. You bid on projects, you get product, and from enough conversations together, I know when you say you learn things the hard way, sometimes you install a product you've never seen before and it goes south. You have to replace it. So you're constantly digging out of one hole as you create.
Sometimes
more.
you order the wrong color.
Yeah, I heard
as
about
well.
somebody doing that.
Yeah, that happened. That actually happened at Summit, though. I'm sure it happened at Concord as well.
I'm sure we'll talk about this more.
Oh, yeah.
As I push the topic away. So here you are at September 11th. You've got all this money on the street, as you say. You've got people, you've got buildings, you've got trucks, and you've got a family, and you've got a house, and you've got no cash flow, no business. So Concord closes.
And you owe the bank $2 million, too.
It had to be an unbearable time.
It was tough.
And I'm sure that's an understatement.
It was a very trying time in my life and my wife's life. It was very pressure filled.
Well, not because I work for you, but they're a testament to you and Gail that you're still together, and things work. That's a difficult time. That could cause a lot of problems in interpersonal relationships.
A lot of spouses couldn't have survived that. Would not have shown the love and support that Gail did. But it's when you say for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, I mean it really did matter.
I can't imagine it could be worse or poorer. Now you've got a country that's in turmoil. You've got no job. You don't even probably know what direction to go. You wake up in the morning with nothing to do. How did you pull yourself out of that hole, and what did you do next?
You mean when Concord first closed?
Right.
How did I pull myself out of the hole? The truth is, I curled up in a ball in my bed for a while. If there was a time ever in my life that I was depressed, that was it. And I didn't have a lot of time to stay curled up in a ball, because I had to keep dealing with figuring out things that went down in that Concord life. There were some issues that took place. I had to deal with accountants and lawyers and things like that. But the bottom line is, you have two choices. You either get up and you get yourself together and you make things happen, or you roll up and curl into a ball and die. Yep. I chose the first.
Well, and you may not want to say this for yourself, but I'll say it. I know that you cleaned up the payables that you had, and you treated everybody right on the way out. Another respectable thing. One of the reasons that I work here is not just for the job, but it's because of the relationship that we had. So I just want to put that out there, so people can know more about you than I do.
I think anyone who knows me knows I hate to owe money. I pay my bills as fast as I possibly can, I'm just dead adverse. I'd rather look myself in the mirror and not have all the pressure of owing money to people or to companies. So I do.
So that pressure's gone, but now you have a pressure of what do I do? And you know one thing, you know the flooring industry.
That's all I know.
So
I mean, it's
So somehow you got from there to Summit. How does that come about? Because now
Well,
you've got to be an
that's a good
entrepreneur
question.
all over again.
Yeah.
You probably could have taken
well,
a job for
can I
for a
tell you
mill.
something?
You probably could have taken a job for a carpet manufacturer, a floor
No,
manufacturer.
you'd be surprised because the way that Concord closed so suddenly, there were a lot of nasty rumors spread about me during that time, and people like to chat and spread rumors, and I found it very difficult to find a job.
Wow.
Working. No, meanwhile, I was given a dozen mills, $500,000 worth of business each at that time, paying our bills regularly, paid everyone back. But a lot of people didn't want to take a chance. So I ended up, I did go to work for somebody, then heard rumors, and he said, "I'm sorry, I just can't continue." And I said, it's not true. One thing led to another, and I knew I needed to do something again on my own. So I went ahead and I did that. What did I do? I went to figure out how to bring in unique floor products to this country, products that were not readily available. Our technology in our country is to create not high quality. Let's just use carpet, not the highest quality carpets, but these manufacturers produce for speed.
Volume.
Volume,
right.
yeah. It's like a big sewing machine. They produce as much as they can. They sell it for cheap. People get 2 years out of it, and it dies.
Lots of commodity product.
Correct. So that's not what I want to do. I didn't want to be one of a million, and I knew I didn't want to be involved with general contractors again. That's for sure. Because when trying to collect your money when you're closing your company, try that. It's hard enough to collect it when you're in business, let alone when you're out of business. So I knew I didn't want to get involved with general contractors anymore. So I figured out through trial and error, and I ended up traveling to Europe and found a couple of unique situations, one of which is how I met you.
Right.
I met you with a product that I brought in called Class. It was an Italian manufacturer of shoe soles that made a mistake, and the shoe sole, the way that they mixed their rubber, ended up looking like leather. So next thing you know, I'm walking around somewhere and I see some piece of leather, some rubber that looks like leather. It's great flooring, and that's how.
And started the company with one product by yourself. Yeah. Out of your home, with no
basement.
Employees.
No, by myself, which is good and bad.
Well, I know when I met you, you were working, I don't know how many hours, but it was a lot.
Too much.
Because you were one-man show. So at some point...
But you know what? That's no different than 99% of the people that start their business.
That are entrepreneurs, right. So you've taken risk. You've rebuilt things. You stuck with what you knew. You networked. You stayed in the industry where you had knowledge base and knew people. And now you've got a product, and you can start finding other products to build a portfolio of products around that. And you chose, I know, to be different and unique from what was made on domestic equipment.
Correct.
So you start building a company, but now you need people again. And that's always, to me, and maybe it's because of the HR background, to me that's always a hard decision. And I also know you had people that did well for you at Concord and people that may not have done as well. So now you have to make choices and start bringing in people to help you. I know that there's overlap of some of the people that were at Concord to some of the people that were at Summit. Do you want to mention anything about that? Or?
Well, first of all, let me just tell you that I was working many hours, but it's no different than I am today. You work as many hours as I do, maybe even more nowadays, but you work 24/7 if you're into what you do, if you enjoy what you're doing, and especially if you own your business. So you put that all together, I was working every minute. And it got to a point where I tried to go away for one night with Gail, and we couldn't even have dinner without one phone call coming in after another. It was just too much. And it was probably right then and there that night, she said, go find somebody to work with. Well, what happened is maybe a week or two later, I'm at some high school reunion sort of thing for our football team. Somebody had passed away, and we went, it was his memorial, whatever, it's every year. And I bumped into my ex-employee, who's actually one of my oldest friends. His name is Jed Horowitz. He used to live, I think it was 4 houses to my left growing up. And I was very friendly actually with his brother, more so because his brother's my age, but Jed was a year older, but we played football together. And Jed had worked for me at Concord for, I guess, about 6 or 7 years, and we had lost touch. I said, how are you doing? What's going on? And he said, oh, he can't take it where he is. One thing led to another, and I looked at him and said, you want to see what I've got going? And next thing you know is Jed's working with me in my basement, out of my home, and he was my first employee at Summit, and he's still here today. I guess how many years later? We started Summit in 2003, so it's 18 years, over 18 years that Summit's in business.
So now I know you've got 3 people from your Concord days. You've got a handful of other people. You've built Summit from a one-product company to representing some of the most prestigious brands in Western Europe.
Yeah.
And along the way, you've now got fairly large office space, warehouse. You've been a successful entrepreneur twice. How is what you do now and how you feel about the kind of work you do now at Summit, an import distribution company, different, better, worse than dealership?
Okay, really simple. I am not, and I said this morning in a meeting that we had, that I no longer run a business strictly with my heart. I am probably too soft a business person, if you really want to come down to it. I'm sure that if I was a little bit more tough, I'd have more money in the bank. But
and you might fire someone that ordered the wrong color.
Well, we'll talk about that in a second. I hire good people, not too many good people. I make sure everybody is the quality person that I should have had at Concord. Now, don't get me wrong. We had very good people at Concord, but we had a lot of bad fluff, bad fluff. And, whatever, it's different here. Aside from Jed, I have Joe Wilson, who used to run our project management at Concord. He's now here in sales and semi-project management for me. And Steve Hand, who's been here forever, been part of my life forever. He used to run our warehouse back then, and he runs it today. And you know Steve, he's...
Yep. Well, everybody here is very loyal and hardworking. That's an understatement for sure.
Yeah.
And from there, I can jump in and say that I actually had a small hand in being able to help you to bring on more people.
You did.
And
you were
we
my
have a great
you
team.
were
We have
actually
a great team here.
You were the first person I offered to come join me, and you said no.
Well, I couldn't say no forever.
No, you couldn't say no forever. I'm glad you. I'm so happy. But you were third, and then you and Jed and I opened up a small office. We advanced from our basement to which was a good sized basement, by the way, to a smaller office than I had in my basement, but it was a real office. 2 rooms. You and I sat for, I guess, 2 years, 3 feet apart.
With no warehousing.
No warehousing.
My desk was the other side of your desk.
Yeah, basically.
And we high-stepped over boxes to get wherever we wanted to get.
And then Gail became our 4th because she was a teacher's assistant during that time. And then there were, without getting into politics, there were changes in the New Jersey government, and she lost her position. So I said, it's almost great that, I wasn't happy at the time, but she became our employee. She became inside, and there's a group of us that have been around for a long time now.
And the rest of that story goes that you went from that small office, Summit went into a slightly larger office.
More than slightly. We quadrupled.
Yeah, with a detached warehouse in another location.
Correct.
And we couldn't go fast enough back and forth to get samples because the products and the relationships that, frankly, you developed in other parts of the world, they were the right relationships with the right products. And every day we were rushing back and forth 3-4 times a day to a warehouse that was a 15-minute drive away to get samples.
Correct. And we were climbing over boxes. We were and oil on the floor from the forklifts, and it was just a bad scene. And one thing led to another, and we bit the bullet and moved to this almost 14,000 square foot facility, which is run by Steve immaculately, as you know.
Yep.
And we're doing well. We keep a secondary warehouse down in Georgia.
We're doing well, but then another tragedy hit, and that is what we've all been going through the last year. And so really, you've taken and honed all those skills of, I don't want to say survival, because it's much more than survival. You've really built a business 3 times. You built Concord, you built Summit, and now you've had to rebuild Summit. So it's very commendable, it's very respectable, and we've got a great company, as we've said, with great people.
We do, and you need to, you know, I have to tell you that if I didn't have the quality of people that we have, I don't know if Summit would have survived. But everybody was willing to work tighter. Everyone still tried. We did have to make some difficult cuts, and quite honestly, the PPP plan did help.
That
we
helped.
used it, you know, it was written for companies like us, and it helped us during that time.
And we have great product from precision
We do.
manufacturers that
We do.
really are on the cutting edge. What you said about commodity product earlier, we're working with products that are on the cutting edge of what's earth friendly as far as design as well as design. So we've really got a nice package, and we will continue to grow and continue to bring out new products.
Yeah, we have great products. We have great people. We have a great office environment. We have great conditions. Everyone dresses very casually here, unless there's a reason to get dressed, which I don't think there has been in the 5 years that we've been here. You know, everyone gets along. We're all like family here. I mean, it's an overused
It's overused,
saying,
but it's real.
Yeah.
And I think the designers that work with Summit would testify to the fact that they get samples quickly. The dealers that work with us know where their projects are, if they're
It's
on the
about
water,
service.
if they're in customs, where they are.
Yeah.
It is about service, and we will continue that route. Are there any closing words, anything you'd like to say as we finish out today?
Listen, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody that works here at Summit. We have a great team. This whole television studio that was built, the whole Summit Live concept, the podcasts, the social media platforms. You think I know much about this? I don't. I really don't. But I'm willing to spend. I'm willing to allow people to spread their wings and to provide ideas. And very often, it happened this morning. We were in a meeting. I come up with an idea, and 3 of you guys shot me down. I went, okay. You know, not everybody, patting myself on the back for that, not everybody's ego could stand that. But quite honestly, between you and Oliver and Alan, you guys really run the marketing side of it. I just yay or nay it at the end. So listen, in closing, I did what I had to do to survive. I have good people. This company has survived the worst of times. It's only going to get better. We're going through terrible times right now in the world with the health situation. It's going to be better, I hope, very soon, but I suspect it's going to be another 3 or 4 months of slowness, but I think we'll get there.
So anybody out there who's watching today's episode and has dreams of opening your own business, do something you love, stay tenacious about it. Don't let the downsides knock you out. Keep at it. Network well. Find the right products and the right people, and something that gets you excited to wake up each morning and go do, and you too can find success.
Yeah, and you asked me one thing. Let me just say one thing. Find something that you like to do, and every day will feel like you're out having fun. You don't want to feel like you're going to work. And I'm like a kid. Come Sunday, I'm anxious. Well, after I'm done with my round of golf, that's the disaster. Don't even ask me about that one. But I'm anxious to get back to the office and to get busy again. And I know you feel the same way, because you're like me that way.
We say it's a hobby, not a job.
Yeah,
we're always here because we
find something
enjoy
you
it.
like to do and do it, and you'll be successful at it.
Excellent. Well, I hope that everyone's enjoyed today's unique and special episode with David Numark. Please remember, if you'd like samples, info@summit-flooring.com, or use our toll-free number 877-496-3566. We appreciate you tuning in. Look for us on podcasts. Today's show is always available on our YouTube channel or our website. And we will see you next Tuesday, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, for a brand new episode of Summit Live.